This is the Rod Langway Fan Club.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rod Langway Fan Club podcast. I am your host, Jeff Roman. So happy you could join us. It's an exciting time of year. This is our 2025 NHL Playoff Preview show. And I'm with a couple of co-hosts who always excel at this time of year, Mr. Mark Cheknita.
Yeah, I'm nursing a few little bumps and bruises, but this is playoff hockey. We play through pain.
And John Snowden.
I am buzzing here. I got the smelling salts on hand, and I am ready to go.
As always, we're coming at you from the heart of Asia, Taipei, Taiwan.
And of course, this is the birthplace of Rod Langway, the Secretary of Defense. We are here in our studio overlooking the beautiful Heping Riverside Park, and I can't wait to get going here.
Yeah, this is our season finale. For those of you who've been with us since the start of the season, thank you. For those of you that are new to the show, please like, subscribe. These things help that, annoying little YouTube algorithm, and great for independent content creators like us.
We are going to break down all 8 first-round matchups and give our prediction.
Yeah, we usually start out east, but I think this year, since the first series is out west, let's start there with the Western Conference champion Winnipeg Jets taking on the upstart St. Louis Blues, who stormed into the final playoff spot.
Yes. Now, John, your Winnipeg Jets won the President's Trophy. It's the first time in the history of the franchise.
Yes, it has been a wonderful season for the Winnipeg Jets. They have been a regular season juggernaut, actually going back to last season. So the real question is, how does this team perform in the playoffs? I think it's a big question mark. And St. Louis Blues, they're no pushover.
Yes, they certainly aren't. I think the big question, though, is on the Jets side. Connor Hellebuyck looks like he's going to get his second Vezina Trophy.
Yes, what a season. First back-to-back since Marty Brodeur.
But we all remember what happened last season. The playoffs started, and he did not look like a Vezina candidate. And a lot of people are, I think, a little bit nervous in Winnipeg, wondering what Connor Hellebuyck is going to show up for this playoff round.
And in the opposite goal, we have Jordan Binnington. I love this rematch of the Four Nations Cup. And Binnington has been hot recently. Let's not forget, St. Louis, they went on that 12-game heater to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that guy's such an enigma. He'll let in the ugliest goal you've ever seen, and then he'll make 6 10-bell saves in a row. So yeah, I would not want to be facing a guy like him coming in hot.
I love a good goalie matchup in playoffs.
Yeah, it is going to be a fun one for sure. The D matchup is also interesting. Of course, the Jets, the stingiest team in the league. I believe they only gave up 191 goals all season, which is quite remarkable. St. Louis has a decent enough decor. They have some depth, but they're quite old, and I don't think they have anybody that quite matches Josh Morrissey, who has been an outstanding defender all year.
You say old, I say experienced. But yeah, I know what you mean. A guy like, Suter is pushing what? He's in his 40s now.
I was especially impressed by Cam Fowler.
Oh, that was a great under-the-radar addition. Getting him from Anaheim for a second rounder was just dirt cheap.
Yeah, and Philip Broberg has also been okay for St. Louis. The Jets, they have Neil Pionk back. He had a great year himself. So we'll see how much he can contribute in this series.
I really think Dylan DeMello is one of the more underrated defensive defensemen in the league as well. Part of that 191 goals allowed, I think.
And how do these forward groups stack up against one another?
Well, the Jets had themselves an excellent offensive season. 277 goals for. That's good for third in the league, led by Kyle Connor. He had himself a career year, 41 goals and 97 points. Mark Scheifele not too far behind. He had 39 goals for 87 points. Gabe Vilardi was the third member of that line. He had himself a really good season too. He is a bit banged up though. Hopefully he is ready to go for game 1. They're going to need him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so worried about him. Sounds like he should be ready to go for game 1. But Nikolai Ehlers, a really unfortunate incident, crashing into a linesman. Looks like he might miss some time in this series. He is a guy that really depends on his speed, and if it's a lower body injury, this could be a big blow to the Jets' secondary scoring.
And Robert Thomas, this was really a big breakout year for him. He put together an 81-point season. He also missed some time. And pretty good year for Jordan Kyrou as well. I mean, he topped 70 points, so he's solid.
I'm not sure how his style of play will translate to playoff hockey. He's more of a perimeter guy, not the largest guy either. I do like some of the secondary guys like, Dylan Holloway had a breakout season. He's a guy that has playoff experience with that deep run with the Oilers last year. Pavel Buchnevich is another guy who can pot you some goals. Good two-way guy.
Yes, and they've got some good grit with Braden Shen and Jake Neighbors. John, do you think the Jets can match their grittiness?
I do. Led by Captain Adam Lowry. This is a guy, he can throw the body. He can impose himself. Of course, Al Iafallo, he's another guy who can play tough. Luke Shen has been added. So we do have the Shen Bowl, Luke versus Braden. That should be fun to watch. This could be a physical series. I do think the Jets can bring it, though.
Well, let's not forget the most photogenic man in the NHL. You guys brought back Brandon Tanev, and he's a wrecking ball out there. So this is a guy built for playoff hockey.
Yeah, it should be a fun series here. I'm really looking forward to this.
All right, boys, let's get our predictions in here. Mark, who are you going with?
Well, I always like to pick an upset. I'm going to get it out of the way early. The Blues have been hot. I'm going to say they steal this one in 7. Bennington is out of his mind in game 7, and the Jets come up short once again in round 1.
Oh, don't say that, Marky.
Sorry, John.
That would hurt. That would hurt. It's tough to pick the Jets sometimes. They have disappointed in the past. I think there is probably a way to break through their structure. You need some really top-end offensive talent, and I don't think the Blues have that. So I'm going to go with my Winnipeg Jets. I'm going to say the Jets in 6 games.
All right. One thing about this matchup is I feel like it's an underrated coaches battle. Scott Arniel has done such an amazing job with the Jets, and Montgomery, since he's taken over the Blues.
Whole new team.
Yes, he's done amazing. But I think, John, I am going to go with your Winnipeg Jets in 6. I think it's going to be an excellent series.
Okay, well, let's move along here. We'll stay in the Central Division. The 2-3 matchup is a doozy. It is the Dallas Stars versus the Colorado Avalanche. Now, this was a matchup that a lot of people thought was not really something that was fair to see in the first round because 2 Stanley Cup contenders. I think at the moment, it's changed a little bit. Dallas has not been playing quite as well recently. No. So a little bit of a different vibe in this matchup now. Mark, what do you think is going on?
We got to go back to January 28th, and that's when Mark Stone and Miro Heiskanen had a really ugly knee-on-knee collision, and Heiskanen has not returned. There is a chance we see him in this series, although there is no guarantee. And without him, I don't think that the Dallas Stars will be able to handle that high-octane offense in Colorado. A guy like Nathan McKinnon charging down on you. Very few guys in the world can keep up with him. Heiskanen was one of them, and without that, I think this is going to tilt this series in Colorado's favor.
Now, I do love Thomas Harley. I think he's awesome. But Dallas has another injury to worry about now.
Yeah, in the last game of the season, Jason Robertson has injured his knee. They say that he was in a brace after the game. Hopefully that's just precautionary, but I would be surprised if he was ready for game 1. And I mean, on a team that has a lot of forward depth, maybe they can make it up in the short term, but not a good way to start.
Yeah, I really don't like it. I mean, they're going up against an offensive juggernaut in the Colorado Avalanche. Dallas is a team, like you said, they have a lot of depth, but they don't have a lot of top-end talent, and Jason Robertson was their top scorer this year. If he's not in this series, that spells a lot of trouble for the Stars.
One thing I do love about this series is it's the Mikko Rantanen Revenge Tour, playing against his former team, the Avs. What do you expect out of Mikko Rantanen in this series?
I don't know. I mean, he has not looked like the same player since leaving Colorado. Carolina didn't go well. It's been a little better in Dallas, but it really makes you wonder, is he really this 100-point guy, or was he just a benefactor of some of the stars in Colorado? I know he's going to be eager to prove that he certainly is a star player in this series.
Yeah, they do have some other great offensive talents too, though. Wyatt Johnson had an excellent year, another 30-goal season for him. Tyler Seguin is back and reunited with Jamie Benn and Mason Marchment. That's kind of a nice little line to add some complimentary scoring there.
That was a big line for them early in the season. Nice to see those guys back together. They're going to need it.
Yeah, so they will need that in the playoffs, especially against Colorado's offense.
And in a series that will probably turn into a track meet, don't worry, Rupe Hintz will be galloping up and down with the puck. This guy is a scary, scary player. Maybe no Nathan McKinnon, but kind of that ilk of player.
And another guy that Dallas has, probably the best value contract in the league, is Matt Duchene. Guys, he was a point-a-game player this year.
That's crazy. For $3 million, second time he came back on that cheap contract. Obviously, he's looking for a cup and thinks Dallas is the place to win it.
And let's not forget, they also have the former Rod Langway fan club defensive defenseman award winner in Esa Lindell.
Yeah, and with Heiskanen out, he's going to be taking on all of those top-end matchups, playing heavy minutes. I think he might be up to the challenge, but if he's not, it could get ugly in Dallas.
And let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche. They have some offensive power on that team.
Of course they do. Nathan McKinnon, another outstanding year. Now, he didn't quite get to the Art Ross, but he was in command for most of the season. And Cale Makar, what a guy, breaks 90 points from the back end.
Unbelievable. 90 points for a D-man.
Yeah.
Guys, I think he's the best player in the world right now, and he has been for a while. I know everyone's going to say McDavid, but Makar is such a threat all over the ice and very, very strong defensively as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's such an exciting team. What a deadly power play they have. But it doesn't stop there, does it?
Well, no. You've got a guy like Martin Necas who has fit in seamlessly since coming over from Carolina. I love the additions of Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, good depth up the middle as well. But I think the most exciting thing for Colorado is their captain might be back.
Yeah.
Gabriel Landeskog, after 3 years of rehabilitation, played a couple of games in the AHL, scored a goal, and it looks like he's going to give things a go in the playoffs. And if he can be even half the player he used to be, just the emotional boost alone, what a great story this could be in Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, the last time he was on the team, they won the Cup. So if he can bring any of those vibes back, it would be huge for Colorado.
Another guy who brings kind of an unpredictable vibe, but has such talent. He was such a force when they won the Cup. Valeri Nichushkin. Can he stay on the team?
Yeah.
A couple mysterious disappearances in previous runs. This guy, though, just the potential is amazing. Just a big, scary horse out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can keep his nose clean.
Yeah, absolutely. If he stays out of trouble, he'd be a great addition there. I really like Arturi Lehkonen. He's a guy who can play on both sides of the puck.
So clutch, so smart.
Absolutely.
Proven winner.
Yeah, proven winner. Absolutely. What do we think about the matchup between the pipes with these teams, though?
Yes. Now, this is interesting. If you're Colorado, which would you go with?
Well, I would probably go with Mackenzie Blackwood. He's got the big contract. He's got the pedigree. Nice to have a guy like Wedgwood to fall back on, but I think you got to go Blackwood in game one and let him run with it.
Yeah, Scott Wedgwood had a pretty good season himself, so not a bad problem to have for Colorado. On the other side, Jake Ottinger had himself a pretty solid season, but has really faltered of late, much like the rest of the team. So how much of that is on Ottinger or how much of it is just on Dallas not playing very well? I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, he's a guy that really does run hot and cold, like most goalies, I suppose. But I still remember that series against Calgary a few years ago that he stole. I know his potential. Dallas is going to need him to be to his full potential against this Colorado attack.
All right, gentlemen, let's get our picks in. John, who are you going with?
Well, I don't want to give away my Stanley Cup pick here because I did pick Dallas to win the Cup. But I guess I have to. I just don't have confidence in Dallas anymore. Colorado has really picked it up. For me, it's Colorado in 6.
I agree, John. I'm going with the Avalanche in 6. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, guys, I think it's going to be even more lopsided than that. Colorado wins it in 5. No Heiskanen's going to make a massive difference. Colorado's going to come flying out of the gates, and Dallas will not be able to recover.
Okay, well, moving along here, let's go a little further west. Look at the Vegas Golden Knights. They are facing the Minnesota Wild in the 2-7 matchup in the Western Conference.
I think this is a very compelling matchup, actually. You look at the way Minnesota was such a powerhouse at the start of the year. They got all those injuries, but guess what, guys? Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov is back, and so is Eric Sinek, another massive contributor. I think this series could be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota was really, really good before Kaprizov went down. In fact, they were leading the league at times. Then when he went down, they kind of struggled, but they did make it into the playoffs, and now he's back.
Yeah, they kind of backed themselves into the playoffs.
And they might have backed themselves into a dangerous matchup here against Vegas Knights because this is a team that has depth at all positions. They can play any way you want to play. You can grind out a 2-1 win. They can run and gun too. They got some offensive stars on that team, starting with Jack Eichel. We still remember 2 years ago what a force he was when the Vegas Knights won their first Stanley Cup. And I still think he's one of the best in the game.
And Mark Stone, he can really turn it on when playoffs come around. He's an animal out there.
For sure he is.
Great two-way player.
Yeah, outstanding. One of the best, probably the best two-way winger in the league, I would say. Always concerns with injuries with Stone. But if he gets hurt, they do have guys to step up. Tomas Hertl, a guy, often gets overlooked on that team. But before he came over in San Jose, he was an excellent offensive talent. And I think he's going to be a big factor in this playoff matchup. Pavel Dorofeyev this season scored 35 goals for
what
the Vegas
Golden
Golden Knights.
35 goals that was.
No kidding. I mean, just kind of buried. They also have Brandon Saad, Wild Bill Karlsson, former Stanley Cup winner. The list just kind of goes on and on.
I thought it was really cool they brought back Riley Smith, one of the original Misfits. And let's not forget another very underrated guy. Nicholas Roy is a good two-way player, big, strong guy. That's the thing. It's a big, strong team, but look at the D-core, just a bunch of towers of power.
Yeah, this team is set at every position. I mean, back there, they've got Theodore, Pietrangelo, and Hannafin.
That's a great
Unreal.
top three guys right there. And then on top of that, you got this monster like Nicholas Hague, 6'6". Braden McNabb is a nasty piece of business, especially in the playoffs when the whistles get put away. And Zach Whitecloud, I mean, that's another guy who could play top 4 minutes for a lot of teams. I think that's top to bottom the best D-core in the playoffs.
A lot of questions in net, though. Now, I know Aiden Hill has had a decent season.
Yeah, decent. I mean, we've seen this man get hot. He has won a Stanley Cup. Never write him off. But I don't know. And if he falters, do you really have faith in Samsonov, who got hurt down the stretch? I mean, Akira Schmid is the other option, so he'll better bring it.
Yeah, that would be the one thing. I mean, if Minnesota can really expose the goaltending, they have a chance. Otherwise, I think it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, here we have been singing the praises of Vegas, but what else does Minnesota bring to the table?
Well, I think they're one of the best coach teams in the league. Great structure. Even when their stars were out, they were still, getting enough points to stay in the playoff spot. You look at a guy like Matt Boldy, a really talented young player. This is a guy who's going to have to pick up the offense, I think, to keep up with Vegas. And I like Matt Zuccarello. There's a veteran who can chip in some offense. And Marco Rossi, nice progression to his career. I wonder, though, as the defense of Vegas bears down on him, he's kind of a smaller guy. Will he be able to get in on the inside and make a difference?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do like Brock Faber on the back end. He may be the best defenseman in the entire series. After that, I don't think Minnesota's defensemen match up very well against Vegas's. However, goaltending is another issue. Jeff, what do you think about Philip Gustafsson?
Yeah, Gustafsson, he was very good this year for Minnesota.
Yeah, nice bounce back season from him. Obviously, Marc-Andre Fleury, if he is called into action playing against his old team that jettisoned him, it would be one hell of a story. I think the entire NHL would be cheering him on in his final season.
It sure would. So, guys, for this one, it's an easy call for me. I'm going to say the Vegas Golden Knights in 5 games.
Yeah, I think you're being a little dismissive of Minnesota. They have some underrated guys back on their blue line. You look at a guy like Jonas Brodin, really, really good defensive defenseman. Jared Spurgeon, the captain. If he's healthy, he's effective out there. And come on, Jeff, your boy, Middleton, mustache from your hometown. He's a guy built for the playoffs. So I think Minnesota makes this one a lot closer than people think. I think it goes 7. Vegas does win in the end, though.
Okay, well, I'm going to fall right between you two guys. I am going to pick Vegas as well. I would love to see Minnesota win this. And I don't know if they can recapture some of that magic from the start of the season. I think it's possible, but I do have to go Vegas. I'm going to say in 6.
And for our last series in the West, for the 4th year in a row, we have the Edmonton Oilers versus the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I looked at this series and thought, this is going to be so boring. Same result. Oilers, easy walk over LA, but things have changed. Matthias Ekholm has gone down, number 1 defenseman for the Oilers, and I think that this is going to change the face of this series.
Yeah, I mean, Edmonton has not been playing well down the stretch at all. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl has also been out. Connor McDavid missed some time too. So if these guys are not healthy, this could be a much more interesting series than I think a lot of people assumed it might be.
Yeah, another difference this year is that the Los Angeles Kings have home ice advantage, and they are the number 1 home ice record in the NHL. So the Oilers are going to have to find a way to win at least 1 game in LA.
Yeah, and one of the biggest mismatches, I think, is in goal. Darcy Kemper was incredible this season for LA.
The reclamation project from Washington has been outstanding. 922 save percentage. Now, of course, maybe just the fact that he's playing behind that great LA defensive squad, but still, he's looked good. He passes the eye test.
He sure has. And Edmonton, Skinner just returned from an injury. Pickard, I mean, I would have to give the nod to LA in net.
Yeah, if we see Pickard in the series, we know that Edmonton's probably in some big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Skinner played pretty well last season, but yeah, you got to give it to Kemper. He had a really, really great season. But, there are some other advantages I think LA has. Mark, you mentioned Ekholm being out. Drew Doughty is back for the Los Angeles Kings, and he's really made a difference. I think he's really helped out Kemper's numbers too down the stretch.
Yeah, he's the best defenseman in this series by a country mile, I'd say. Now, statistically speaking, Evan Bouchard, the big point scorer for the Oilers, I'm a little bit worried. Again, Ekholm's out. That's his D partner. I think you could get exposed here playing heavy minutes without his partner.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that Edmonton here has the offensive superpowers with McDavid and Draisaitl, but I really like some of the Los Angeles forwards, and they've added to their group too. Of course, you have Anze Kopitar, one of the best two-way guys in the league. He's getting a little long in the tooth, but I still think he's got some good game. Adrian Kempe has had another great season. He can really pot the puck when needed.
Yeah, Kempe had 35 goals this year, and so did Kevin Fiala. So that's some nice offensive punch for the Kings.
Yeah, he was ice cold to start the year, but that second line really got going. Him and Byfield were on the same line, and they were dynamite down the stretch. So it's going to be some nice secondary scoring there
Yeah,
for LA.
I love the emergence of Quentin Byfield. So nice to see.
Yeah, for sure.
He got banged up a little bit there at the end of the season, though, right? Darnell Nurse took some liberties, got suspended. That could be an interesting storyline in the series as well. Things could get heated between those two big boys.
Yeah, and they added another K in Andrei Kuzmenko. This is a guy who can pot the puck too. So I really like LA's depth going into this series.
All right, guys, let's get our predictions in. Mark, who are you going with?
Ooh, this is a really tough one now with the situation, Ekholm injury, Oilers banged up with Draisaitl as well. But I just can't see Connor McDavid getting knocked out in the first round. I think the Oilers just barely scrape by and win it in 7.
And John?
I mean, I think this is the year LA does it. Finally, it's really hard to beat a team 4 years in a row. I do think this LA team is better than the previous 3. So I'm going LA. I'm going to say LA in 6.
I can't believe it. I agree. I think the Oilers are going to get upset in round 1. I'm going to say the LA Kings in 7.
Well, that wraps up a very exciting Western Conference. Let's move along to the Eastern Conference here. We'll start at the top. We have the Washington Capitals facing off against the last wildcard seed, the Montreal Canadiens.
Mark, you must be stoked. Your team, they made it to the playoffs. Wow, what a run they went on the end.
Yeah, I expected them to be better this year, but not this much better. Although we should keep in mind, this is one of the lowest point totals for a playoff. 91 points was enough to get it done in the end. But hey, the rebuild's looking pretty good at this point.
So let's dive into it. The Capitals, unbelievable. They were the last team to clinch the playoffs last year. This year, they were the first team to do it.
Yeah, what was their key to success, John? Because this is a really big surprise.
Yeah, I mean, they made a lot of moves. They did rejig the team, but I don't think we have to look too much farther than Alexander Ovechkin. Of course, he breaks the goal record. 43 goals in 64 games. A truly great achievement for a man of 39 years of age. We got to give credit to the Great 8.
Yeah, but it's not that simple, is it? I mean, the depth up and down that roster, a lot of guys emerging. You look at a guy like Alexei Protas, a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was acquired as a reclamation project. Up and down that lineup, a lot of guys overperformed, and it'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up in the playoffs after having, basically a month or so of not playing super competitive hockey.
Yeah, a lot of career years. Dylan Strome led the team with 81 points in 81 games. Incredible. Tommy Wilson, he's always dangerous. He's a scary dude, 33 goals. And of course, Connor McMichael, who had a good, solid 56-point season.
Yeah, Wilson's going to be an absolute force in the playoffs, and they're just a big, heavy team. I wonder how Montreal is going to deal with that size because they're one of the smaller teams in the playoffs.
They are, but they do have some nice speed and some nice skill. I really want to see what that top line can do. Nick Suzuki has been really, really good. He's entering his prime. Cole Caulfield had an outstanding year.
And the third member of that line, size not a problem for this guy, Juraj Slafkovsky. He ends up with a career high 51 points. He was hot in the second half. He's going to be a really key player for them in the playoffs, I think, when things get dirty down low.
And it's going to be interesting. Young Ivan Demidov will be playing against Alexander Ovechkin. That's going to be really fun to watch. We'll see what this guy can do in the playoffs. Some other depth scoring, though, for Montreal. Brendan Gallagher had himself a nice year with 21 goals. Not too shabby. And this is a guy who can really stir the pot in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they do have some other gritty guys, like Jake Evans is in there, Joel Armia, Josh Anderson. So they're not without some toughness.
Yeah, their penalty kill is pretty good for most of the season. It's going to have to be because the Capitals have some scary guys on their power play, obviously Ovechkin being chief among them.
And Mark, what do you expect out of Patrick Laine?
Oh, you know what? Patrick Laine, despite the numbers looking pretty good, especially the power play goals, he's been kind of a passenger in the second half. Don't like the body language. He's the shot's just off right now, and the power play has been ice cold. So I'm a little bit worried about Laine.
And how about the decor for your Montreal Canadiens?
Well, Lane Hudson, a historic rookie season, ties the rookie assist record for defensemen set by Larry Murphy. What an exciting player. But man, that Washington forward group is huge. I think he's going to have his hands full. He better keep his head up out there because they're going to be coming at him full tilt in those first couple of games in Washington, I think.
They've got Mike Matheson back there. He's had a solid year. Gooley, he's an effective defenseman.
Yeah, he had that ugly injury, but he's come back, and in the clinching game, actually, for the playoffs, he had 2 goals, 7 hits. He could be a force in the playoffs. He's a key contributor on that blue line.
And John, what about the Washington decor?
Well, of course, led by John Carlson. He's been really, really good. Jacob Chikrin, nice addition. He's been contributing quite substantially. I really like Rasmus Sandin, too. Martin Feravari, some nice depth there on the blue line. Not an easy decor to play against.
And what about between the pipes, Mark?
This is where things get interesting. Now, Logan Thompson was having an outstanding season, but recently, looks like he had a concussion, got hit in the head with a puck. Hasn't played since then. Sounds like he could be ready for game 1, but concussions are so hard to talk about. You never really know what's going on with them. So hopefully he's ready, but nothing sure there.
They sure need Logan Thompson. He was incredible at the beginning of the season. And John, what about in net for Montreal?
Well, Sam Montembeault is back there. He had himself a pretty decent season. They're going to need him to play very well. I think the last time these two teams met each other in the playoffs was when Jaro Halak stole the season from Alex Ovechkin. That was pretty exciting. I wonder if we can see a repeat of that. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think with this mismatch on paper, we're going to need a Halakian type performance for Montreal to pull off an upset.
All right, Marky. So who are you picking in this series?
You know, I love my Habs. It's been a great season. They've overachieved, but I think Washington is too deep, too big. Montreal does win a game because I think that Bell Center will be rocking. Gentlemen's sweep, Capitals in 5.
Well, I always got to pick one upset each playoffs. I really like Montreal's vibes right now. It's been a pretty fun run. I'm going to pick Montreal. I'm going to say they're going to do it in 7.
Hey,
yeah,
wow.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Yeah, Washington is tired. It was all about Ovi's goal record. That is over. I feel like there's going to be a big adrenaline dump. The kids are going to take it to them. Montreal in 7.
Oh, they've been such a fun story this year, Montreal. But I'm going to have to say, Rod's team, the Washington Capitals in 6.
Well, Rod's team was originally the Montreal Canadiens, actually. It's the Rod Bowl.
Oh.
The Rod Bowl. I like that.
Yeah, the Rod Bowl.
I wonder who Rod's picking.
Well, I think he's a Capital at heart. That's an easy one. But hey.
Yeah, Rod, if you're out there, let us know in the comment section.
Okay, let's move it along from the Metro champs to the other 2 Metro teams that made it in. The New Jersey Devils will be taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. What do you guys think about this series?
I'm not as excited about this series as I am about some of the other ones.
Absolutely. This is probably the least exciting series in the whole playoffs. At least for me. I'm sure if you're a Jersey fan or a Canes fan, you'll think otherwise. But yeah, just not a lot to inspire. The Canes have fallen short several times, and the New Jersey Devils are without their franchise player in Jack Hughes. Still, a couple of playoffs teams, should be some competitive hockey. So what do we think here?
Yeah, I think one interesting thing, I think this might be the one series where we get to see all 4 goaltenders in action. You look at New Jersey. Now, obviously, Jakob Markstrom is the guy who's got the pedigree and he's the starter, but actually Jake Allen has been the better goalie for the second half of the season. If they get down early in this series, I think Jake Allen will get a shot. On the flip side, Anderson and Kochetkov, I could see both of them seeing action for Carolina as well. They've kind of been a platoon all season long.
And how do these blue lines stack up against one another?
Well, I think you have to give the edge to Carolina. They do have former Rod Langway Award winner Jacob Slavin holding things down on the blue line. But bright side for New Jersey, Dougie Hamilton is back. He played the last game of the regular season. That's a huge addition to their blue line, especially with Jonas Siegenthaler on the shelf.
And they do have young Luke Hughes back there. He put up 44 points in 71 games, so not too shabby.
Yeah, not the Hughes they need, but hey, one Hughes is better than none.
Carolina has some decent offensive players, although I do feel like they underperform, particularly Andrei Svechnikov. This is a guy I think we were originally sort of pegged as a 40 kind of goal guy. He's never really reached that peak.
He only got 19 this year. Can you? Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I think they're hoping for him to step up. On the flip side of that, Timo Meier is a guy that I think New Jersey would have liked to contribute a little bit more offensively and hasn't been able to do it either.
Yep.
Kind of similar players. I think both teams are looking for them to step up in this playoff matchup.
They're both big guys that can bang the body in playoff hockey. Yeah, these are the types of players that should rise to the forefront.
So who is leading the charge offensively for these teams?
Well, in Carolina, guys that play together, Aho and Jarvis, right? And they kill penalties as well. You got to watch out for that. In what will be probably a very low scoring series, a shorthanded goal could really turn the tide. Now, on the other side, it's got to be guys like Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt.
Yeah, not bad.
So there is some offensive talent on both sides, but I still think this is going to be a pretty tight checking series.
All right, let's get our picks in. John, who are you going with?
Well, I am going to have to go with Carolina. I think with Jack Hughes in, I'd probably pick otherwise, but Carolina, I think, just has a little bit more depth, a little bit more experience, and I like the coaching edge with Rod Brindamore over Sheldon Keefe. So I'm going to go Carolina in 6.
Okay. I'm really curious to see what Logan Stankoven can do in this series. I know he's still quite young. I'm going to go with the Hurricanes as well in 5 games.
Yeah, this feels like a must-win series for the Hurricanes, who have kind of been a perennial contender for quite a while now. I think better days are ahead in New Jersey, but right now it's Carolina. I think they win this relatively easily in 5 games.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the next one here. Jeff, your Toronto Maple Leafs win the Atlantic Division, and they will be facing the Ottawa Senators in the first Battle of Ontario since 2004. Really looking forward to this one. What do we think?
Oh, I am pumped. The Battle of Ontario, the Leafs and the Senators had some classic matchups in the early 2000s, which I might add the Leafs won all 4 of them, and featuring Matt Sundin versus Daniel Alfredson. We had Eddie Belfour in net. They had Patrick Lalime. It was classic, some amazing playoff series, and I'm so excited to see what this one has in store for us.
Yes. Now, it's funny, though, because you look back to those series and it was Ottawa that was the powerhouse. They were the favorite that could never get it done. The Leafs were always that plucky team that upset them. And here we see now the Leafs, they're the powerful one. And Ottawa is kind of the underdog, and they're hoping to turn the tables on Toronto and be the spoiler.
Yeah, the narrative does feel a little different this year for me with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have avoided the 2-3 matchup. They are the top seed. They have a new coach. I think that's a big thing. Matthews is playing really well. Mitch Marner coming off his great performance in the Four Nations Cup.
100 points, too.
And 100 points for Marner. Things, for me, feel a little bit different for Toronto.
What an excellent season by Nylander. William Nylander, 45 goals.
And what we've seen from William Nylander is he always saves his best for the biggest games. He's always been one of their best playoff performers. I have no worries about William Nylander. But Marner, I don't know. This is the big year for him, right? Free agency looming. Maybe the Leafs move on from him if he doesn't prove it this year. So he's really got to deliver for Toronto if they want to make that deep run.
It's big. And Johnny Tavares, his first year in Toronto, he scored over 40 goals. Now it's his last year of his contract, and he's had an excellent regular season. I don't know if it's the amulet.
Oh, Jeff, let's shift to something a little bit more tangible. Although the amulet angle is interesting, Matthew Knies. Now, this is an interesting player. Big-bodied forward. He really broke out this year, and I think he's going to be an absolute force in the playoffs.
I'm really curious about the Maple Leafs' bottom 6 to see can they contribute. All season, they've been looking for the right configurations of the bottom 6. Hopefully, they can find it in playoffs.
Yeah, if we look at Stanley Cup champions of past, they always get solid contributions from the bottom 6, and that is the biggest question mark on this team, I think.
Yeah, I do think Craig Berube is the type of coach that can bring out the best in those depth players, though.
Yeah, I love Steven Lorentz. He's a Kitchener-Waterloo guy who used to play for the Peterborough Petes, and he's all heart there on the 4th line.
Okay, let's get out of this Leafs muck and let's turn to the other side. What about the Ottawa Senators? What are the keys to them for this series?
Well, Brady Tkachuk has to be healthy and firing on all cylinders. This guy is an absolute terror on the ice. If he brings his A game, that could spell some trouble for the Toronto Maple Leafs for sure.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like Tim Stützle finally get a chance to show what he can do in his first playoff appearance. Drake Batherson as well as a guy who can score goals. A guy who has been there before, Claude Giroux. I think he's going to provide some much needed veteran presence in that lineup as well.
I like David Perron. He's another good vet back there.
How about the Cousins, though?
I like the
Yeah.
Cousins.
Not
Hey,
actual
Cuz.
Cousins, but there's Dylan Cousins.
Yeah, Nick Cousins.
There's Nick Cousins. No relation, not actual cousins, but they both bring something to the table. Both gritty guys. Obviously, Dylan with the higher ceiling, nice addition from Buffalo, but Nick Cousins is a real pain in the butt to play against as well.
Okay, well, what do we think about the defense here? I mean, I really like Jake Sanderson for the Ottawa Senators. I think he's probably the best single defenseman in the series, but I think if we look at depth, Toronto's looking pretty good.
Yeah, once you get past Jake Sanderson, I do like Thomas Chabot, who was actually pretty good down the stretch. But,
Zubalube?
Yeah, Artem Zub, physical presence. They did bring in Nick Jensen when they traded Chychrun because they wanted a steadying presence back there. He has been that. But if you look at the Leafs top to bottom, this might be the best decor they've had in the last decade.
Tanev really makes a big difference. He set a record for most shot blocks by a defenseman this year.
Yeah, and speaking of stabilizing defensemen, bringing in Brandon Carlo to play with Morgan Riley, I think that is the perfect complement. He's really quieted his game down. Watch out for the Leafs. I really think that the holes they used to have been filled.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's look at goaltending as well. Goaltending was always a question. This year, they've got two solid options.
Now, I would say that Toronto has the advantage with Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll. They've been great. Both of them have won 20 games. But John, do you agree with me on that one?
Well, I think if I could pick one goalie of sort of the three, if we're talking about Allmark, Joseph Woll, and Anthony Stolarz, I'd probably go with Allmark. But if I were to pick a tandem, definitely I'd go with the Leafs tandem. I really like the flexibility it gives them in net.
Yeah, and you guys know I'm not really sold on Linus Ullmark. I think he was more a beneficiary of that powerhouse Boston team. I think right now Stolarz is probably the one who's playing the best. And again, yeah, if he stumbles, I think Joseph Woll is a nice option.
All right, picks. Let's hear them. Mark?
Yeah, as much as I would love to see your Leafs faceplant, Jeff, I think they've really built a solid playoff-ready team. Senators, they're young. It'll be good experience for them, but they're going to be out in 6. Leafs take it.
Yes, I would have to agree with that. I really like this Leaf squad, more so than I've liked them in a very, very long time, probably ever. So I'm going to say this is going to be easy for the Leafs. Leafs in 5.
Man, I have a lot of battle scars as a Leaf fan here, but I'm going to say the Toronto Maple Leafs will win in 6.
Okay, guys, let's shift from the interprovincial battle to an interstate rivalry, as once again, the Florida Panthers are taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
This should be a cracker of a series, but who do you think has the advantage up front?
Ooh, up front, that's really tough. I mean, I love Sasha Barkov. He's one of the best two-way, if not the best two-way player in the entire game. Matthew Tkachuk.
Is he going to be healthy?
Yeah, is he going to be healthy? And Barkov's been a little banged up too. Nikita Kucherov on the other side of things. Wow, what a guy. And when he gets his magic going with Braden Point, that's a scary thing.
Yeah. Art Ross trophy winner, 121 points,
Yeah.
not slowing down as he gets into his 30s. Another guy in his early 30s, Jake Getzel, was the perfect addition for this team. He's a battle-tested playoff performer, and you know exactly where you're getting from him. I think Tampa Bay is humming along with offense, and Florida's going to be in tough.
Hey, but don't forget Florida counters with Sam Reinhart. I mean, he was a point-a-game player this year. We know we can pot him.
But you gotta love what Brandon Hagel brings to the T-Bay side here. The guy who can pot 35 goals with no power play time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is quite an achievement. You gotta love Tampa Bay's depth too.
That's the thing, and you mentioned that in the last show, John, is how the Tampa Bay Lightning have slowly been rebuilding the depth that they once had when they were a perennial cup contender. They've had a couple of early exits as well. I think they're going to be the fresher team. Florida's played a lot of hockey in the last few seasons, and the injuries have kind of shown how that's been piling up on them. That could be the difference in the series.
Which team do you think has the advantage on D?
I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, without Aaron Ekblad, he's going to be missing the first 2 games. That's going to be pivotal, especially T-Bay has home ice. I mean, they have Victor Hedman. They have Ryan McDonough. He was a plus 44 this year. Quite an incredible feat. Eric Chernak, a nice guy to have back there.
He's not a nice guy at all. He's a mean mofo, but that's exactly what you want in the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's tough to say who has the advantage, really. I'd probably give it a slight advantage to T-Bay.
I would say more than slight. Although Seth Jones was a pretty good pickup from Florida, we don't really know what he's going to do in the playoffs. We haven't really seen him in playoff action.
And don't forget about Gustav Forsling. who actually put up 11 goals for a guy who's normally known for his defensive work.
Yeah, I mean, he was such a standout for them last year in their cup run. He's going to have to bring more of the same if they want to get past Tampa.
Yeah. What about in net? I mean, this is great matchup. Sergei Bobrovsky versus Andrei Vasilevsky, 2 future Hall of Famers, 2 former Vezina Trophy winners. What do we think about the matchup? Who has the advantage?
Well, if we look at this season's performance, I think Vasilevsky has been the better goaltender. They've both had amazing stretches in their career. They're both former Vezina Trophy winners, both Stanley Cup champions. But again, if I had to pick one, I'd go Vasilevsky.
All right, guys, who are you picking?
This is so difficult. And, the other thing is that these are maybe the best 2 coaches in the game, too, with Cooper and Maurice going head to head. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to the fact that Tampa Bay is a little bit hungrier. They haven't played as many games in the past couple of years, and they're a little bit healthier heading into the playoffs. I think that's just enough for them to squeak by in a really hard-fought 7-game series.
Yeah, I got to agree with all of those points, Mark. And I do think Kucherov is extra hungry this year. He has looked like a beast on the ice. His one-touch passes are some of the most beautiful I've ever seen in the game of hockey. I'm going to go T-Bay in 6 games.
This is a tough one to predict. I just cannot count the Stanley Cup champs out, especially when you've got guys like Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. I think the Panthers are going to take it, but it's going to be 7. So that about wraps up our Stanley Cup playoff preview. What's up next?
Well, let's hit the mailbag.
Sorry. What was the question? I would totally veto that. What kind of league are we running here anyways? I'll have to consult the rule book on that one. Remember the trade guidelines. Can we get some friendly questions here? You guys have got to dress your players.
Okay, this is everybody's favorite segment. This is Ask the Commish. You can get your questions in last minute. Send us an email at rodlangwayfanclub@gmail.com. You can send us a tweet or whatever they call it on X these days at Rod Langway Fan Club. And remember, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really does make a big difference with the algorithm. And also, if you could leave a comment, that would be much appreciated. So, what do we have first?
We got a Facebook message here from Dangerous Danny. It's actually kind of a 2-part question. He says, of all of the non-playoff teams, who had the most disappointing year and who has the most to look forward to?
Thank you so much for the question. Biggest disappointment, can I just say the original 6 teams? First time ever that all 4 of the original 6 American teams are out to start the playoffs, especially the New York Rangers. Last year, won the President's Trophy, got all the way to the conference finals, crashed out, horrible season. Now, Chicago probably wasn't that big of a disappointment.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say so. Bedard, I think, underwhelmed this year, and I think they wanted to take somewhat of a step forward, and they didn't. So I wouldn't say, necessarily the future is as bright as it was originally hoped. So not great for Chicago.
And what about Boston? Mark, finishing last in the Eastern Conference as they might do here?
Well, for years we'd been saying they're going to fall off. They finally did. And, the signs were there early in the season. And this year there was no recovery. Montgomery was fired, and that just made a bad situation worse.
And John, the Detroit Red Wings, lots of problems in Motown, the Yzer plan.
Yeah, the Yzer plan's looking really bad. I got to say, it was sort of questionable for a while. I think now it's looking pretty hurting.
Yeah,
pretty hurting.
I'm guessing they're going to give him one more year.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Mark, who was your biggest disappointment?
Well, every single year I fall into the Buffalo's going to be good trap. I fell into it again, and yet again they let me down 14 years in a row now without a playoff appearance. I don't know, what are they going to do? Do they start another rebuild? Is it time to move on from stars like Thompson and Dahlin, or is that too crazy? It's just, I don't know. Frustrating times in Buffalo. It doesn't look like there's any light at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, biggest disappointment for you?
I mean, I would have to say the Nashville Predators. They made some big moves. They grabbed Steven Stamkos. They got Jonathan Marchessault. It did not work out at all.
Yeah, some people had them as a dark horse for the Cup, and they were one of the worst teams in the NHL.
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing for Nashville fans.
Yeah, I thought one of you guys might say Vancouver.
Yeah.
After making the playoffs last year, another team that was just dysfunctional this year.
Yeah, and Pettersson in Vancouver. So many disappointing teams this year, if you think about it.
Yes, and Philadelphia. I mean, Torts got fired.
Yeah.
That one didn't surprise me that much, to be honest. Okay, let's move on to something a little happier now. What about the teams with something to hope for? I think for me, it's got to be the Columbus Blue Jackets. What a great story.
Yeah.
Obviously, the tragic loss of Johnny Gaudreau was such a gut-wrenching thing, but these guys banded together. They fought hard, and they nearly pulled off a miracle getting into the playoffs. I think the most encouraging thing is some of the young guys stepping up. Look at Adam Fantilli, second pick overall a few seasons back. He was dynamite down the stretch. Kent Johnson also finally living up to that promise as an offensive stud. I think better days are ahead in Columbus.
Yeah, and Werenski.
What a year from Zach Werenski. Finally stays healthy, has a Norris caliber season. He's going to be a big part of this team moving forward. I like what I saw in Columbus.
Yeah, and that was a really fun story with Jet Greaves, the goalkeeper who got called up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
He was lights out.
Coming out of nowhere. I'm not sure what his future holds, but still, it was a fun story.
Yeah,
Could be a Winnipeg Jet, maybe.
Yeah, he should be.
Yeah.
And John, what about you?
I mean, I got to say, I just really like what I saw out of Macklin Celebrini. I think he's a budding superstar. I really think he's going to be a franchise player for this team. And in like 3, 4, 5 years, they could be a real contender.
Yeah, I like what Mike Greer has done there. He's made a lot of savvy moves. I think that they've drafted and developed well so far. The rebuild is on track.
For me, couple of positive stories. Utah, right? First season there. I thought it went really well. They have a good young core. Anaheim, right? This team has been down in the dumps for a long time. Finally, they're showing some signs of life. But really, one of the biggest stories for me, positive stories, was the Calgary Flames. This team was counted out the whole way through, and Dustin Wolf was a revelation.
He was. I have to disagree with you though, Jeff. I would not be encouraged as a Flames fan just because this is a team that overachieved. A lot of veterans were a big part of this team. I think they're going to get stuck in that mushy middle. And you might have a Carey Price situation with Montreal where you had a team that was not very good, dragged along by a great goalie who's just never able to get those high picks to do a true rebuild. So I don't know. If I was a Calgary fan, I'd be kind of worried about the situation.
I thought we were trying to keep things positive.
Well, I'm
around
sorry.
here.
You chose Calgary. I'm just not that positive about Calgary.
I'm enjoying this. Let's do another question.
All right. We have a tweet here from Donnie Lito. And Donnie just writes, what are your favorite stories from this NHL season?
All right. Thanks for that question. Guys, we have to say, or I'm going to say at least, Alexander Ovechkin did it. He broke Gretzky's goal record, 895 goals. The man's 39 years old. He broke his leg this year, and he still did it. What a remarkable achievement by the Great Eight.
Yeah, Vladdy's going to roll out the red carpet for him when he gets home this summer.
And John, what was a moment that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, I love Sidney Crosby. He had such a year, performed very well in the Four Nations tournament, and probably most remarkable of all, broke the record for most consecutive point per game seasons in NHL history. What an engine this guy is. What a consistent performer.
Yeah, I feel so lucky that we've been able to watch Crosby and Ovechkin. Mark, what about you?
Well, for me, it was watching Marc-Andre Fleury in his final season. A few moments stand out. I think the two biggest ones, his last game in Montreal, ends up getting a shutout and gets a standing ovation from his home province crowd. In Montreal, that was the dark point of their season, but the fans were classy and Fleury was great too. And then the final game of the year goes to overtime. Minnesota had just clinched a playoff spot. I guess Gustafsson went to the coach and said, put Marc-Andre Fleury in. And Fleury stacked the pads, did a poke check, thanked his post after it got hit in overtime, ends up getting the win on a Matthew Boldy goal. That was a great moment for Marc-Andre Fleury. Who knows? That could be his last appearance in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, is there a more loved player in the league right now than Marc-Andre Fleury? Probably not, right? Everybody loves Fleury.
Yeah, we wondered at the very beginning of the season if he would get that number 2 all-time wins.
Yeah.
And he did it.
He did it. What a remarkable achievement.
Now, wait, we got one more here, guys. Look, there's a little message here.
That looks a little like you're writing.
Okay,
Mark.
yeah, I did write this one.
You wrote it yourself.
Well, I did because I want to change my cup pick, okay?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So it's
what did you write to
it's
yourself?
from me to us.
Okay.
And it says, does anybody want to change their cup pick? Last chance.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question, Mark.
You're welcome.
Now, you guys know I originally started out with the New York Rangers, right? At our midway point, I changed it to the Colorado Avalanche, and I'm sticking with the Avs. I think the Avs are going to win the Cup this year.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
you're the kiss of death, so you've probably ruined it for them.
And what about you, John?
Well, I started out with the Dallas Stars and have persisted with them throughout the season until now.
No way.
Yeah.
You're changing it.
I'm changing it.
Who are you going with?
I really didn't like what I saw. I am scared to say this.
Okay.
I am going to pick my Winnipeg Jets.
Wow.
Yeah.
You homer.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick
Whoa.
my Winnipeg Jets.
You're always
to
so
win.
down on them.
I know. I'm going to go with it this year.
Attaboy,
Winnipeg
Johnny.
Jets for the cup.
That's
Loyal.
shocking.
Okay, Mark.
Well, I'm going to pick a team that I hate.
Okay.
And I'm looking deeply into your soul as I say this, Jeff. It sickens me to say this. This is the year that the Toronto Maple Leafs break the drought. The 1967 drought will end. I really think they've filled all of the holes. The decor is looking strong. They've got 2 goalies they can trust. Matthew Nyes is emerging. Marner's got something to prove in his contract year. Tavares wants to come back, and Matthews is healthy and ready to light the lamp. I think the Leafs do it. I think there's a path.
But why are you giving up on your hometown Oilers where
Well,
you're from?
You guys know that I'm not an Oilers fan. They've got some of the greatest players in the world on their team, but I really do think that they did not address the defenseman situation. And then on top of that, Ekholm goes down. I think that Stan Bowman has done a horrible job. That team has fallen apart under his watch. Broberg, Holloway, gone. Not to mention the fact that they traded away Ryan McLeod and letting Warren Fogle walk. These are all guys that be key contributors that are now gone. Oilers are out. Leafs are in.
Wow.
Well, maybe we'll get a Leafs Jets final. Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, that would be fantastic. Well, thanks for the letter, Mark.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that about wraps it up for us, guys. That was a lot of fun. And I want to say thank you to Mr. John Snowden for all of his hard work this year, editing.
Thanks.
I'd like
Thanks
to lay out a little challenge to our listeners. Now,
Oh.
we normally do not do any more shows until the summer show where we recap the draft and the trades. If we can get 100 likes on this video on YouTube, we will come back and we will do a special Stanley Cup final preview. So the ball is in your court, listeners. We would love to come back, but you got to help us.
All right. I like that. I like that. Well, now I want to thank you.
Yeah, we've really been working on the YouTube page. Mark has been putting together these lovely montages. It adds a nice visual element to the show and, a little humor to an already hilarious show. So that's really, really boosted the podcast. So great work, Mark.
It's an honor and a privilege.
Awesome. Well, that about does it for us. Listen, everybody out there, enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I hope you had yourselves a time.
Well, I hope you had yourselves a time. Hope you had yourselves a time. Hope you had time.